Hello, everyone. Are y'all feeling a little bit excitement to be here at the Smart City in the center and having some great conversations? Yes? Okay, I'm just checking to see if y'all were paying attention. Y'all were supposed to be feeling a little bit excited by the video there. Again, I'm Tamara with Accenture. I'm really excited to be here and be a partner of the Smart City Expo here 2025. And I think it's really exciting. We wanted to start with this video for a reason, because we're going to be talking about governance at the speed of AI. And I know that, right, who would we be if we weren't talking about AI right now? But I think today what we really want to spend time talking about is that we're at a very special time in our history. We're in an ongoing technology revolution. And more than any other time, we have an opportunity to see and solve for complex problems that our cities are facing, that our governments are facing, that our states are facing in our public sector business. And we can do that by really leveraging not just technology, but it's the intersectionality of humans and technology together. We have a lot of complex things that we need to solve for, right? We need to think about the fact that we're solving for workforce, right? We're solving for the fact that there's workforce deficiencies in government. We're talking for the fact that there's budget constraints in government. We're talking about, again, talking about infrastructure constraints as well, right? If you've gone down into the demo area, one of the demos that we have with Microsoft is focused on how do you leverage data, how do you harness data to really understand traffic congestion and create better safety for the citizens in the cities that we live in. I think another thing that's interesting for us right now, and an interesting time for us to face, is the fact that we in government are here to solve for digital citizen services. And it's a special time because just like you're utilizing your phone, you're taking pictures, you're leveraging an AI, and just the common reality of, right, summarize this email for me, it's also a special time for us to embrace and understand how do we leverage technology to help us make ourselves more efficient. You know, a couple of days ago, right, I was with one of our clients, and we were talking about the barriers that we face today in government, right? And how do we help people make a behavioral shift around embracing technology? For most people right now, the speed of it is the issue. Technology is moving at a much faster speed than any other time in our history. When you think about when Instagram came about, it took about 6 months for it to get to 1 million users. When ChatGPT came out, for example, it took a couple of weeks, right? You look at things like Microsoft's utilizing Copilot. It is transforming the way we work. Like me personally right now, the #1 issue I have every day is time. Who has an issue with time? Anyone feel like they have an issue with time? Yeah. And so it's interesting because what we have to do is help people take away what is a natural fear for change, right? And instead embrace the fact that technology can be your friend. And so, you know, we have our own internal tool, Amethyst at Accenture, and now, right, I don't have to try and log on to a system and go into 5 different platforms to find out how much vacation I have, because I need vacation. Any of y'all? Yes? Vacation? Yes. And I could just ask what my vacation balance is by just asking a simple question. When I have to understand what's changing in a legislature and I want to understand what's going on at a hearing, you know what I do? I take the script of that hearing, I put it into our Gen AI tool, right? And I say, summarize for me everything that happened, top 3 points, 5 paragraphs, right? Prompting. Very important. And so the question becomes, how do we really help governments? How do we help cities? How do we help infrastructures harness data? It always starts with data, y'all. Data is the essential equality. The next thing that people are always worried about, I have our security lead here, is security. How do we keep it safe? How do we make sure that we're creating an environment for us to access that data safely? And then how do we then take that data and how do we make it enterprise ready for people to utilize, govern, and access easily, right, for their day-to-day jobs, and not only for their day-to-day jobs, but at an enterprise level for a city, for an enterprise level for a public safety environment, which is you're going to hear from one of our client speakers here in a moment, right? This is an opportunity, and what we have to do is remove the barriers that are keeping us from embracing that opportunity. A little bit what we did is we did a report with the statewide chief administrator offices, the NASCA organization, and we did a report with them. And I wanted to read to you because guess what, y'all? I'm so dependent on data, I can't remember anymore. So I brought the piece of paper for me. Y'all appreciate that, right? And I was looking at this, and I thought this was interesting, and I thought I would share the study that we had on Gen AI and the governance of Gen AI, and what are the things that states are doing to embrace this concept around our country. And y'all should read the report. It's a great report. But there were a couple of metrics I thought you'd find interesting, right? In public sector, right, 75% of all work in public service will be impacted by artificial intelligence. How many of y'all believe that today? Yeah. Whether we want it to or not, it's coming. It's already here. And what we're really talking about is how do we leverage it in a way that has impact and value for each and every one of us, right? 40% of all working hours will be supported by augmented, right, language-based AI. That's a very interesting statistic. 39% of public sector organizations, right, have the potential for automation augmentation now. So what's holding them up? That's what we're going to talk about today. What's holding them up? Because the technology is already here, but yet we're not moving at the speed that we should be moving at to really get us to the efficiencies and productivity that make an impact. So we, Accenture, right, this is what we're spending our time on. This is what we're excited about. We're excited about the opportunity of making your workday easier. We're excited about the opportunity of making our infrastructure more accessible and more safe for the citizens that live within our cities, right? What are we excited about? We're excited about creating new technologies and capabilities in hospitals and medical centers, right? We're talking about how do we create, again, the intersectionality between humans and technologies, humans and machines, to accelerate how we think about, how we embrace, and how we execute our work each and every day, both personally and professionally. And guess what? I have some awesome people with me today who are going to join me on stage to talk about what they're doing and how they're embracing Gen AI and how they are really trying to accelerate and speed up the adoption. And so I'm excited to introduce to the stage and bring on our James Collins. He's our public sector lead for Microsoft. And I think Microsoft is leaning into Gen AI. Anybody see the Copilot demo downstairs or across over here the hallway? You can go do that. The second one I would say is Kamal Deol. She is the CIO of our fire department of New York City. I hope y'all know, right, that is the second largest in the world and the largest in North America. Will y'all help me welcome them to the stage? All right, please come join me. Are y'all excited to have a little conversation today? All right. Y'all aren't in an afternoon coma, right? Right? Okay, I'm going to be watching you. Anybody's nodding off, I might call you out. Okay, so Kamal, James, we're really excited to talk about Gen AI, which I know this is the conversation for everyone and everyone's embracing. But what I think we really wanted to talk about was, and I wanted to start with you, Kamal, around how did you at the fire department embrace this, right? Because people would be like, well, you're the fire department, you're supposed to be putting out fires. But there's quite a lot that goes into the infrastructure and the capability of running one of the largest departments in the world, right? That is responsible for infrastructure safety for the people of this city, right? Can you talk a little bit about where y'all started? And then share a little bit about yourself as well, Kamal.
Yes, so let me start with a little bit of journey, right? You would see a fire truck and EMS, an ambulance coming to your house, or I would hope you had never seen that coming to your house. But if it does, it 100% depends on technology. From the time you call a dispatcher to the time an ambulance is dispatched to the time it takes from their station to come to your house, everything is driven by technology. Same thing is with fire truck. The fire truck, which is coming to your house, it knows who you are, it knows your building, it exactly knows your floor plan, it has all the information. The fire incident commander has all the information by the time they reach your house. So it is not just a simple call, somebody called and a fire truck came and it's a hose. There's an entire piece of technology behind it. When they're sending their firefighters in, they have to take care of their safety of the firefighters as well as take care of you, right? So there's a lot of technology involved in fire department as such. And the journey from IT perspective, I would say, is last 2 decades, right? We were busy converting all the paper forms, all the paper processes, all the back offices processes into a workflow-driven process. with all the data captured into a central database where people can get the information as needed, and increase efficiency along the way when we are capturing this data, right? So our focus was to go paperless, automate everything, automate workflow processes. But last 5 years, when all these mobile devices were given to our firefighters and EMTs, our first responders, when they got all these devices in their hands, they were like, great, we are capturing all this stuff in the back offices, but I need this data when I am at the incident, right? So past 5 years have been, yeah, we need our real APIs going to the back offices, picking up all this data, sitting in all different data sets, and making it available to the EMT or the firefighter when they're at the scene, right? But the information which is coming in is how we have stored. So let's say we are getting into a building. I need to know if there is any critical violation on that building. So we are going to our violations database and pulling all the violations, but we are showing it in the same format. There are 4 records where they'll have to go click a button and they'll see those 4 records of violations. Is there any hazardous material stored there? Is there a lithium-ion battery stored there? So all this data is in different data sources where we pull it, but we show it where they have to log into a system and have to go through certain pieces and then see it in the format we have stored. Very cumbersome, time-consuming. For us, every minute lost in trying to find that information is costing life, right? So with Gen AI, right, this is transformational from our perspective for our first responders. Because now we can probably, how we are building our models is, I can ask a question about the building as I'm entering in a normal language. That will be converted to text to SQL, and our agent will go to all these different models, pull the data, summarize it, and give it to me, right? So imagine the firefighter and EMT who do not speak our language, do not understand how to get that information, can now get that information while they're en route to the incident. While I'm driving my ambulance, I had a patient interaction with this patient 3 times in past 3 years. I have that data. I know who that person is. I know this person lives with his mom. Like, we have all that information available now, which we can pull and provide it in a very simple format. They will use the natural language to ask the question, and they will get that information in a natural language back to them in a summarized format. So very, very exciting time for us, and especially for our first responders who are not IT savvy.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I just want to make sure we pull out a couple of points that you talked about that I think are exceptionally important for each and every one of us. And I think sometimes we forget this aspect of it, right? The fact that you can leverage Gen AI to just simplify to a question. You don't need to go through a database, a table, multiple steps, multiple buttons. You don't need to go into an application and go do 5 things to get to an answer. You just ask a question. You ask a question. Does this building have a violation code, right? All I have to do is ask a question. Do I have any vacation days left, right? Like, I think these are the things that are important to know. The second thing I think it's really important that Kamal mentioned is I want everybody to still always remember that data is essential. One of the #1 barriers, which we'll talk about a little bit, is that people don't have enterprise, anonymized, normalized data and data models that are accessible to be leveraged by a generative AI capability. Right, now, James, you know about data. I think you know a little bit about data at Microsoft, right? And when you think about that, when you think about how Gen AI can enhance government, city operations, right, it still comes back to that as well, right? Give us a little bit of perspective around how we can improve and engage in an organization, not only just leveraging that platform underneath, but then leading into some of the system applications, especially from a government perspective, from a city perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Tamara. And let me just say, like, listening to you explain all of the systems, Kamal, like, I kind of got tired in the middle when you were talking about all the systems that people have to navigate. But I got excited at the end when you were like, we're going to be able to tie those together. And I don't know about the folks in here, but I want the most advanced response to my 911 call. So thank you for the work that you're doing to make sure that happens. You know, the answer to the question, I think I'm going to answer from my roots in government. I spent about 20 years in government across different roles, and from a Microsoft perspective, because I really have a lot of empathy for what you're working through to drive the advances that you're envisioning. But I think you're both right, and I want to stress this point that this is one of those moments. And it's a really cool time to be in tech. It's a cool time to be in government service, because it's one of those evolutionary moments where, like, I don't know, I'm so old. I remember, like, when we got access to the internet and we were, like, all excited to launch a website. Anybody besides me?
No, I don't claim to be that
just
old.
me. Just two people over here admitted it. And we were like, yeah, we're on the World Wide Web. We launched the government website, and then we did a transaction, and we said, yeah, we're doing e-government, and then we just e-government everywhere, irrespective to the constituent that now has to navigate all of this e-government and figure out, you know, how to get services. Like, that's how old, like, this guy is. And they're like, where did they get this guy from? So now I think you think about historically, we've been doing government from, you know, since the time we got off the ark, from agencies and divisions and sections and all of these different systems. But now there's a demand, especially coming out of the pandemic, for an enterprise approach. I want a more personalized experience with government. Enter Gen AI, similar to the internet, similar to what I would say the graphical user interface that took the technology out of the hands of geeks, present company included, and put it in the hands of everybody. That's what Gen AI is doing with the voice enablement, with the text that I can just tell the technology what to do. It's unleashing AI that's been around since the 50s to everyone to use. And I think it's going to usher in a whole new level of innovation, because it's going to it's got the ability to tie all those disparate systems together into an intelligence engine, and also, by the way, modernize the legacy systems on the back end. So we can get into that as we're...
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting point. Both the intelligent operation capability use, right? Because it gives you insights and analytics real time, right? So let's talk a little bit about the use cases, Kamal, because I think, you know, the fire department has always embraced innovation, right? It is always focused on the safety of the firefighters and the citizens that it's trying to save, and how you're doing that, right? All the way back to your point, you're enabling technology, right? Where do you start? Because it's very scary, this thing called Gen AI, right? Where do you start? Do you start with use cases? How do you figure out what use cases? What use cases are y'all utilizing in your organization to help move this conversation forward?
Yeah, so I would say that, you know, the past 20 years we invested in automating and capturing data. That investment is ready to pay off now. We have 20 years worth of verified data sitting in our systems, which now can be leveraged to do the next step, right? To build our models, to provide us the next level where we want to be. So, you know, across the board, from fire investigations to dispatch, to fire and EMS operations, to fire inspections, all these are different data set which we house, right? So how we are starting to do is, you know, to get the biggest, you know, bang for our buck, is trying to do POCs, and I can explain a few POCs. So one of the one which we are doing is we have all these documents and data and content, right? We were capturing data, and then we were uploading documents. We have hand-scribbled notes. We have content, so much of content, right? With all these EMS operation, fire operation, buck slips, a lot of operational data, which is sitting as a piece of paper scanned in with handwritten notes or our PDFs and others. So we are building a search engine, a bot, where you can ask a question, say, I want to understand how is this specific 101.B, which is some kind of a lingo in our terminology in fire department, how do I get that? Or what is that? The bot will go and search across all these documents sitting in all different data sets, will pull the information, even if it's a handwritten note, it will pull the information, it will summarize and give you what exactly that means, and then it will give you references of all the documents from where it pulled. So we know that our workforce is spending a couple of months to pull a specific document if we are asked to. It takes people a couple of months to go back because the systems are all over the place for them, and then to find the document to understand. So that's one of the use cases where when we showed them, they freaked out. They're like, that's what we need, can we get it tomorrow? The other one is public facing, right? We have a chatbot where public call us to find out about their permits, right? All these people apply for different permits when we do building inspections. So they call us, and usually till now there was a web page where we'll route them to, and then they'll go to that web page and they have to fill a form and then submit it to us to get the information about their permit, like where exactly is their permit in the process. So the new chatbot we're building is a bot, which they'll be calling to a bot, which will understand what exactly the customer's need is, and then it will go back to our system and actually will go back, write a query, and actually will find out where exactly the application is. And with the predictive analytics, it will look at the pattern and it will say it is with this person or this department right now, and it will take us 10 more days to make it reach a level where you can see the results. So it is exactly giving you the results you want right there on that call without any human in the loop. We do not need a person here. We have verified data. So that gives value to the customer right away. It saves them time. So that's another use case we are doing. I'll do the two, but we have like 5 or 6 different, but for the sake of time, I think these are 2. One are customer facing, which public facing, and one is internal, which is doc intel and doc search.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I think when we talk about governance and we talk about speed, right, most have started with creating a type of advisory council. First, you decide where is Gen AI from a policy perspective going to sit in your organization. Then the next thing is to come up with a responsible use policy, right? Some states have created center of excellences, right? We've seen that happen. But then really the next thing that has to happen is the use case definition, the use case consideration. And what we have found is that, people don't like to jump to the big enterprise play. So it's like, they're doing a POC, right? They're trying to determine, right, which ones to do. And I think value and impact are a big part of that. I'm curious, James, what have you seen be successful in terms of the use case approach, right? Because what we really want to do is move from POC to enterprise, right? And, Kamal, we've talked about this too, right? How do we move from POC to enterprise? And I think for most organizations, because there's a little bit of fear around it, we're testing it out, you want to start small, but you also want to pick something that's value impacting, right? And we're seeing a lot of value in call centers, for example. Anytime there's case management summaries, policy, law, regulation. Any thoughts around that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think we got to set the landscape, right? When we are talking to government leaders, especially governors, legislators, agency heads, they're saying, we have backlogs in processing permits and licensing. We have backlogs in court cases. We're struggling to keep up with, we've got all of these very skilled people in our organization, and either they have to do their skill or they have to document because there's so much to do. So how can we make sure they're spending more time doing their skill that's really important for the public as opposed to documentation? So there's a ton of opportunity. You called out one, call centers. Customers want to do business on their time, on their device, whenever they want to, anytime, anywhere, from any device. They want to self-serve. They want a personalized experience. Gen AI, we're seeing a lot of digital assistants. Customers are deploying digital assistants all over the place to make sense of the information. I think it's a good way to move relatively quickly with public data that already is in a SharePoint, on a site, in a database. You can point the Gen AI at that, do some tuning, and deploy that relatively quickly with huge impact from a constituent perspective. We're also seeing, and I'm sure you have some of these in your department, where there are extensive rules, regulations, requirements, and procedures depending on the incident, especially in the transportation space, in the public safety space, in the public health space. So we're seeing customers point right at those discrete databases that folks already have access to. So there's not a governance issue. They already have access to this information. We're just using Gen AI to help them access it more efficiently. We're seeing fraud. We're seeing it used in identity proofing. I mean, fraud, when people say, how are we going to pay for all this? If we can just get a fraction of the fraud back, there's no issue with paying for Gen AI. So I said call centers, applications, permitting, fraud detection is another one we're seeing. The digital assistants are ones that we're seeing that are really, really popular. So I'll leave with that point that I already said. Like a couple ways to really move forward is pointing the AI at very discrete data sets and going that people already have access to, and then also using public information. I think is another.
I really think that's an important point. Discrete data sets, whether you have them internal to your organization, because you talked about an internal or an external where you talk about public, those data sets exist already. So you might as well utilize it as a force multiplier. You can personalize it, right? And again, like in call centers, call deflection becomes, you have call deflection, which reduces the burden, right, on your call centers where already for most governments there's 20% vacancy, right? In addition to that, right, you have reduction of call time frames. You have faster services and making sure that you're getting right information faster, and they're not spending time on documentation, which means they have a greater quality call. I mean, so I just think it truly is a force multiplier. But I think let's talk about the barriers a little bit, and let's talk about one of the big barriers is the behavioral mind shift, right? Like I don't know about y'all, are y'all overwhelmed by the amount of technology change and things you have to learn every day? It's something new all the time, and so people are fatigued by this change. And so what we have found to be one of the biggest issues with the pace and the speed is really adoption. It's adoption, right? And it's about how do you also, the pace of the adoption, it's also about, people feel a little bit fearful, right? Kamal, how are you getting your organization skilled up and to embrace this concept, right? There's clear value in it, but how are you getting everyone to embrace that?
Yeah, so I think in my organization, when it comes to the workforce, which is our field workers, obviously they don't understand, but I feel, are a lot more visible, a lot more hearing the stuff, and a lot more aware of the information than it used to be. So we have better workforce who's aware, who's heard of the word AI, who've seen certain things on YouTube and others, so they have awareness of things. But then when it comes to adoption of them using, it's difficult for them to understand how will it change their world. And then they have heard a lot of negativity around this too. So they're getting both sides of the information. So it becomes, it's our responsibility to educate them and tell them how it's going to be useful for them. So what we've been doing is, again, as we said, we are building a small POC and showing it to them how it will transform their world, how it actually will help them in their real life. And that's where, slowly the mind shift is changing. When we talk about the big stuff, do presentations, I don't think they get even 15% of what we said, right? It seems these are all big jargons, technical words, but how does it help me when I'm going to fight fire or when I'm going to treat a patient? How it's going to transform my world, and so that's where I think very small things, very simple things, like just getting them the information that need when they need it, right? That small piece to us, it might seem simple in IT world, getting you a piece of information that happens all the time. It's very easy, but I think when you get that to the user who has not used it the way we have, I think they see the value of it. So exposing them to the small piece of information, small POC, which they can understand, is one way to get them onboarded to this.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you break it down on an individual and personal level, right? So within our organization, Accenture, we were one of the early adopters, right, of Copilot, right, at an enterprise scale level, right? And so, the minute it started helping me take notes for meetings, I fell in love with it, right? Because, the minute I don't have to try and remember and I can really pay attention to meeting, I was really skeptical on the whole performance achievement thing as well, leveraging Gen AI in that space, but when you have to write 50, performance evaluations, you adopt it very quickly, right? So I think, again, it's about personal efficiency, right? I even use it for personal stuff, y'all, right? If I know I got to go on a trip somewhere, y'all think I have a little bit of obsession with trip and vacations? Y'all haven't noticed that yet? Okay. Right? Like summarizing, what am I going to wear? What's the weather going to be, right? What restaurants come up as the best restaurants in this city? Like there's a lot of ways that you can personally adopt it so it starts to normalize it, right? But when you think about adoption, right, again, y'all are facilitating a lot of Gen AI tool sets right now within Microsoft. How are you encouraging your clients to adopt these tool capabilities?
Yeah, thank you. I think Kamal really said it well, like making it relevant to people in an empathetic way of how is this going to benefit their lives is one of the things that we're doing. When you talk about kind of at scale, I would say, one, we're putting out a ton of training for folks. So when I put on my former government hat, maybe one of the things, just low-hanging fruit, is to just require our teams to complete, like pick some training that starts to get them immersed. By the way, I remember when social media came out and we tried to restrict everybody on the network from using social media. They were using it, so I'm telling you guys, they're using Gen AI right now. So the important thing is you make sure that they have a safe enterprise way to do it. Kamal talked about earlier, she was like, this is one of the things that we don't have to do a lot of training on. The thing that I would say, and this is how we partner with Accenture quite a bit, is on the change management piece. Because I got Copilot a couple Christmases ago. It was cool. I played around with it for a little bit, then I sunk back into my normal patterns of working, and I wasn't using it. And so they instituted a rigorous change management where they were giving us scripts, saying, hey, try this. They were having little contests to see which section used it the most, and I don't know, we respond. We're competitive people. I don't know. We started using it to break up those old patterns and start to create new patterns using Gen AI. I think that's one of the key points that we should continue to partner on with customers, where we're actually helping them determine the ROI so they can continue to grow that, the use of it, but we're also leading that change management for their teams to get it trained, exposed, skilled up. We also have AI skilling programs available to our customers as well.
I could spend all day y'all talking about this, and I wish we could do a whole section around even responsible AI because, we've talked about data. People have fear of how is that data going to be utilized? Is it going to be utilized for me versus against me? We could spend a whole section on that. Since we're at time right now, right, I think at the end of the day, we know that there are areas of efficiency that are expected by government. There are areas of safety. There's areas of infrastructure, right? We've got to embrace technology to solve some very hard, critical problems that we face in our public sector world. When you think about how you're taking this on responsibility for the fire department, leave us with a final thought from what you're doing to show up to serve the citizens of New York City.
Yeah, I would say that we are definitely leaning a lot on technology. And we are at a stage of technology where it would be transformational, right? We had technology for years, and as you said, we have technology, and now it's spreading from one government to other government to other government. We have it all set up, but I feel like this next generation of technology, especially with AI, we would be making a huge difference. Because now the technology is not sitting for the people sitting in back offices, but it is with the people who are outside taking care of you, helping you out. So these people will have that information in their hands to take decisions, to take the right decisions, because they know what they need to know at that very moment. And seconds and minutes matter here in our business. That's why this time of our I would say, technology is going to be different, and it's going to be good for all our citizens. So I think we should look forward to it. We should embrace it. I know there are challenges, and there are governance, and there are other issues. But on an overall note, I would say this is going to be a very positive change for all of us here.
Yeah, frontline workers, we appreciate them every day, and we want to give them what they need, what they got to have to do the jobs that they do to keep us safe. James, if you have a final comment for this group here, when you think about this important time that we're in, this intersectionality of humans and technology, what do you say?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I want to just thank Kamal for being here. Nothing like having our customer here to talk about the experience and really accentuate the point that this is not just tech for tech's sake, especially in government. There are lives on the other end of this tech that are trying to access emergency services, trying to access benefits, trying to start and grow their business, trying to comply with the regulations that they have to get done. There are literally lives and businesses on the other end of this tech, so really appreciate you being here. I'll just reiterate like what I've said, like, offer a personalized experience really quickly to your customers using Gen AI. Use it as a power tool for your team members using Gen AI. And I would say, like, one way that you can really move fast in a responsible way is with the right partner using an enterprise grade AI. Like, don't try to go build a bunch of stuff yourself, because you're still going to be talking about it from 3 years from now. Use the right partner with an enterprise grade, integrated into the solutions you're already using. I'm contractually obligated to say Copilot 7 times in this presentation. So Copilot Chat for all of our customers is going to be available starting this month. It'll be grounded on the web, all in a safe, secure environment for your folks to use. And then for those workers that need more integration and more intelligence, Modern Work Copilot is already available for their use.
We appreciate it. So a couple of things as I close out. One, I want to say thank you, Kamal and James, for your insight, your wisdom. Thank you for your use cases. Thank you for what the fire department does for New York City each and every day, and the brave frontline workers and those who work behind the scenes to make it happen. We appreciate it. I want to remind each and every one of you, we need technology, but we need humans more. Human at the helm of technology each and every day. Governance at the speed of AI. We need to embrace it. We need to receive it. We need to know we got to have it. We got to know it's going to make our lives better. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you so much.